What's going on, everybody? This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. Today is June the 11th, 2025. I'm GB. I got Brian and Coop with me. As always, we've been doing this for years. What's up, my guys?
What's going
Oh,
on?
all right. I
Yeah,
like that light blue you got on, B.
you're
Why,
right.
thank you.
You're right. You're right on that one too.
No
You're right
doubt.
on that color that time. Yeah, so we back at it. Not, we checking in one time for the one time. Thanks everybody who checks in with us and listens to us talk our little sport talk one time. So we're talking NBA finals. We'll do a little bit of talk about the US Open at Oakmont and kind of our regular segments. So man, let's start with the NBA finals, man, and get y'all's thoughts on these first few games.
Well, so we haven't had a show since the final started. And so one of the first things
Correct.
that I did is I turned right to you, Glenn, because you were here. And I said, all right, I'm putting my shot out there. I think this is OKC. I don't know how many games, but I think this is OKC's to win. I think they're more talented. I was aided in that decision because at that point in time, they had only lost one game to an Eastern Conference team all season. That was to Cleveland early in the season, and so they essentially had no losses to the East. And I figured,
Hmm.
given all the talent, the depth of the bench, that they could overpower the talent of Indiana, which is kind of focused on two or three players max. And so, I went into the series thinking that OKC could win this, and then was promptly uh, in game one shown exactly why Indiana is a contender and why they're going to remain a contender and may even win this. I get talking now the benefit of a third game being played tonight, but Tyrese Halliburton has got an extra gear. Who is just a better team player. He is by far the best player on the court, and I say that knowing that SGA, the MVP, is on the other side. But every time there's a big moment where a big play needs to happen, he finds the play, whether that's the pass, the rebound. He was the leading rebounder tonight. He makes the big shot. He's got ice water going through his veins. And when OKC needs the big plays or is trying to come back, it turns into ISO basketball with SGA or one of the other players dribbling it forever and jacking up a shot, and they lose the offense. And then Indiana has that grit, and when they get close and they see blood in the water, they play lockdown defense and just take it to OKC. So I picked OKC. I know that. I acknowledge that they're down 1-2, and you can lose one game like this if you're OKC, but they've now lost two, and now they've got to win what is now a must-win game in Indiana in the next game, because they can't lose to Indiana and expect to be able to take that series. So it doesn't look good for my pick, but I stand by the fact that I picked it. Even though I could have probably have changed things given the 3-game hiatus. What about you, Jason? What are your thoughts on this series so far?
We didn't get a chance to talk before I think the series started, but I got OKC as well. I still have OKC. It's on shaky ground. But I did notice something before, the better in me. I looked at all of OKC's road games they play in the playoffs. They haven't covered not one road game. It was 7 straight, and now with today's loss, they were 5.5-point favorites. It's now 8 straight. So OKC has not been as good on the road as they have been during the regular season. I think that's playing a part in the playoffs. And like you, Brian, when the game is close, I'm taking Indiana. They just seem to have. I'm not saying this is a great team, but they're on one of those Dwayne Wade streaks when he was in 2004, I believe, when he just carried Miami throughout the entire playoffs against Dallas. It seems like Indiana's one of those hot runs with Tyrese Halliburton leading the way. Whenever the game is close, they are just always finding a way to win these games. If they're down 15-20, you can never really count Indiana out the game, because if they get it close, I mean, watch out. It seems like they got the closers on that team. I believe that SGA is the best player in this series, but I think what's hurting OKC is, from what I've saw these last 3 games, I don't think they have a clear-cut number 2. People can tell me who their number 2 is. I don't think they have a clear-cut number 2 player, whereas I think Indiana has a few number 2s on that team capable of getting buckets whenever they need it. Like you, if Indiana wins this next game, the series is absolutely 100% over. Indiana is not going to lose 3 straight. They haven't lost 3 straight this entire playoffs, and they barely will lose 2 straight. OKC definitely needs to win for my next game, for my pick to be successful. If they go up 3-2, I have
Yeah.
OKC winning the series. If they can, go back home game 5, go up 3-2, I think they could pull it out. I would love to see 7 games, but right now it can go either way. But whoever wins I would say, let me go like this: whoever wins the next game is going to win the series. I'll say that whoever wins the next game wins the series. So we'll see what happens. But OKC clearly has a need for a number 2 scorer if they do not win in the final, win the championship, because losing always brings clarity. Your weaknesses come out as to what you need, and I think it'll be obvious that OKC will need a number 2 guy if they lose this series. And Giannis wants to be out. He's available, so he might be the missing piece. I heard somebody say Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant's 38 years old and is always injured, and I don't think he will concede his the top, I guess, the man on the team to SGA, because right now SGA is a better player in my opinion than Kevin Durant. I wouldn't want Kevin Durant leading my team. SGA is proven he can lead a team to the finals, and so I wouldn't trust KD with that responsibility. But we'll see what happens. It's a good series. The games are entertaining, but I'll say whoever wins game 4 will win the series. Glenn, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm seeing that. So I'm just looking at the box score, and you had hey, why'd y'all do that to me? As soon as I want to say, so SGA had 24, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Chet Holmgren had 20 points, 10 rebounds. Jalen Williams had 26, 6 rebounds. So they had players in double digits, but the scoring was very concentrated. So they might have needed, it sounded like you just needed a couple other people to get a couple buckets. And that could have helped it. Meanwhile, for the Pacers, Halliburton had 22, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, almost had a triple double. Siakam had 21, 6 rebounds, and then Mathurin, who was my guy from that college, from the March Madness a few years ago, had 27. So, but then everyone else pretty much had at least a little something and added in. So it looks like you had at least everybody else who played dang near scored something. So I see they mix it around. I thought that first game it started out like a lot of these other playoff games have, just kind of blowout. It wasn't close until the very end when Indy crawled back in, and then another last second shot, which they've done. Stealing that game was big. And then you go to then now, I figured the next game would be OKC because that's how the playoffs have been. OKC wins with a nice margin. I figured that OKC was going to lose this game. I was telling Brian's before the show, I think OKC wins in the next 2, then Indy wins, and then you get your game 7. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I don't have any horse in the race. I will say I thought this would be a very low rated series from a viewership perspective. I wasn't surprised that it has been. From stuff I read. If I'm wrong, I'm happily corrected. But from what I was seeing, it was one of the lower rated finals, and I figured it would be based off where the markets are.
Yeah, they knew it.
Now I will say this to the point I made before, and shout out to my boy Algie, who we always talk basketball. But as far as actual basketball, the games are solid. Like the play has been better basketball. Exactly. So from basketball's not fun to watch perspective, this is actually better basketball and a good game to watch. But now it's do you have the marquee matchup? Can you market? We're trying to market Halliburton and SGA. Is it a big enough draw? I don't think it is, but kind of against my own arguments of how basketball is boring. These games haven't been boring. They've actually been solid basketball. So
I say I wouldn't say better basketball. I'll say from a drama perspective, it's been better because in game 1, the reason why OKC lost the lead is because they just kept bombing threes when they got up 18, 19, 20 points and they were missing. And Indiana was bombing threes, but they were making them. And that's how they came back. So I don't know if it's actually better basketball, but I would say the drama in each game has been a lot better because you kind of don't know what's going to happen.
And I agree with that. I would say that part of that for me is like the type of game SGA plays, a mid-range, take it to the basket type of game, was more in line with the basketball I used to watch
Yeah,
and
yeah.
love. They
Okay.
did miss threes, but also they just couldn't get anything to fall because they were
Yeah.
still going to the basket. The mid range wasn't falling in that first game. And if you can't score, the other team, like you said, can get a couple buckets, hit a couple big threes. You can cut into a lead and get some momentum and go that way.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think the later in the playoffs have actually been better basketball. Ball movement, how the kind of plays are running and watching it from that perspective. But it's just interesting. So
Yeah.
it's kind of what I've seen in it.
Oh.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Cool.
Cool.
So any last thoughts for either of you?
No.
No.
Cool. I'm gonna just real quick in the NHL finals, because I mentioned it before. We're our sports show. Florida leads Edmonton 2-1. So we'll
7
see
goals in both games. There have been plenty of goals in both games. Plenty.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that's where that sits.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
So
would encourage people to actually watch it, because during the regular season they scored a lot of goals and they played each other too. So
yeah, and
I would
most of these
encourage
games
people
have
to
been
watch
close,
it.
except
Yeah.
except one.
Mhm.
So yes, indeed.
Yep.
All right. So we had that just to give you a little check in there. B, US Open,
Yeah.
man. I'm watching all this stuff too. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, this is going to be probably one of the more entertaining US Opens in history. So, for those of you who don't watch golf or follow golf, this might be a fun time to watch it. And here's the reason why. The US Open is known for always setting up the golf courses for this particular tournament as the most difficult setup you could possibly imagine. And this time, they've got it right to such an extent that this is considered the hardest golf course that has ever been played in a golf tournament. And people are literally duffing shots from 3 feet off the green. You lose the ball in rough, you can see right where it is, and you can't get down and find it. They're suffering through practice rounds. They're talking about this being one of the few tournaments that's happened before where nobody finishes under par for professionals. So, if you want to watch kind of people suffer through, or watch the pros kind of take their dings, this is going to be the tournament to do it. This will look to somebody who's played a couple rounds or seen other people play a couple rounds and stuff. It'll look like those people playing. It'll look like me and anyone else getting stuck in the rough and not being able to find it, or putting and watching it go off the green because the greens are so fast. This is going to be the biggest challenge for golf in history, and it's completely up for grabs, because one unlucky moment could take the number 1 golfer in the world, Scotty Scheffler, and make him look like number 125. And a couple of good breaks could make number 25 look like the best golfer in the world because he finished 5 over on a tournament. I mean, that's the kind of event that this is going to be. The setup is honestly a little bit absurd. If you wanted to watch good golfers play golf and look like they know how to play golf, this isn't it. But this will definitely be entertaining. I was watching Phil Mickelson, one of the all-time best at a short game, and he was unable to get a ball 3 feet onto the green 4 different times during a practice round. He literally would hit the ball would just pop up and go right back down, pop up and go back down, pop up and go back down. He finally got a little bit of a groove, but 4 times, one of the greatest short game players that has ever played golf couldn't get 3 feet. One player hit it and it went dead right. I mean, it was more than a slice. It was like he'd never played golf before. But it's going to be entertaining. The course looks beautiful until you realize that, how they built it. I watched a special that talked about how they got the grass to be so hard and so thick. And they don't just let it grow. They said that what they do is they have to grow it a little bit at the time, maybe a half inch or a quarter inch, and then you cut it, and then you let it grow again, cut it, and let it grow again. Sort of like my wife is always telling me about her hair when she wants. She's like, if you want it to grow, you have to cut it a little bit and let it grow. Anyways, they do that because then it grows more uniformly, more thick, and makes it more impossible. So this is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen as on a golf tournament. And I'm doing a pool, and usually I'm trying to pick good golfers, and this time I'm like, no, I'll pick names I want to watch, because there's no way to predict it.
The words I've seen have been carnage,
Yep,
insanity. I mean, I've watched, like you said, practice rounds. I watched people try and hit out this rough. It's rough to bunker. It's rough. Brian said these are the best golfers in the world. Coop, for you, bro, there's a bet in there. It's like, I think it's like plus 9,000 that any player can make it through at any time for 4 rounds without getting a double bogey. Just one.
Damn. Damn.
Just one. So if any
And that's a
player in the
pretty common
field,
thing for winning golfers
yeah,
in golf tournaments.
Man.
not so if one golfer makes it through, I think dude had a $10 bet that was gonna get him,
9,000, whatever.
nine
Yeah.
thousand dollars, that any
Not bad.
golfer could make it without going 2 over on one hole.
Man.
So all you gotta do is bogey, and to Brian's point, I mean, we saw some rounds last week. Dude had like 5 birdies in a row, some par, I mean, under. This is not that. So it's basically, it's if you're watching the best in the world, you give them the hardest challenge possible that they can stand, and we see what happens. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be definitely interesting. So
Damn.
yeah,
Crazy.
anybody for 4 rounds, you got 100, what, 75 something golfers will get in the cut, and you can't. Does anybody make it without getting a double bogey? Is nuts. Nuts. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this
gonna
is
be. I don't even want to play like that. I gotta be honest. When I saw this, like I have no desire.
I
I
would
don't
not
want to
play
just
that
be
way.
tortured. Yeah,
Someone told me. So I played
I'm cool.
Pinehurst, which was exceptionally difficult. Not long before one of the last opens, and the greens are upside down saucers and things are rolling all over, and it felt a little bit mean. And if someone offered me the opportunity to play this course with this setup, I would say no thanks. I'm good.
I'm cool. I wouldn't even be able to find the ball, bro. You
Yeah,
hit that joint
you
in
got
rough
too many
slightly.
spotters to find the ball.
They
And
got 300-yard par threes.
Damn. Damn.
Like you're talking about like, bro, I can't. That's if I could make it in 4, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I get to the
Par
green in 4? I'm
three.
like, I'm cool. So yeah, it's
as I mentioned earlier, it is a little gimmicky, but
yeah, bro. They had like
yeah.
100-man, 100 men and women grounds crews that are cutting with like hand mowers. They had one Coop. Dude had like they look like clippers, bro. He was giving it a taper fade on the green, bro, so that it rolls off when it touches. Like there's no like if
Man.
you are not exact, goodbye.
Yeah.
Someone hit a
Damn.
putter from 122 yards out.
Yeah,
Damn.
that's nuts. So yeah, that's your
Damn.
U.S. Open talk. So yeah, if you're at all, not even into golf, I mean the highlights are going to be crazy because it's going to be people trying their hardest to stay on. So
Yeah.
that's what it is. Cool. So yeah, this was a quick one. We just kind of want to check in. Thank you all who pay attention and watch the show, who leave comments, text us, email us, talk to us in person, and we appreciate every single one of you. So yeah, so that's where we're at. Let's get to our last few segments. Let's start with Hogwash. Brian started this, it might be a year now, man. We started this a while ago, saying something was a bunch of hogwash and we made it a weekly segment. Do you guys have anything in the world of sports, or I guess the world? I mean,
Sure.
I guess a lot of the world is hogwash, so maybe we keep
Yeah.
it to sports.
You want to go first, B?
Sure.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers since the last time we talked.
How's that hogwash? That's good for you, right?
That was great.
Absolutely a bunch of hogwash. No, I knew he wasn't. I still have to worry about Kirk Cousins. But the Vikings had long since moved on from him. But the thing about it that's hogwash is that, Mike Tomlin has done an amazing job of keeping that team above 500 year after year after year.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the person who takes that happening and likely costs Mike Tomlin his job. Because every year there's folks like Jason who want to put him on the hot seat because he hasn't done better than that. Wins in the NFL are hard. Aaron Rodgers is not good. I think it's a bunch of hogwash that they decided to sign him and give him a landing spot, for no reason whatsoever. And, this was kind of a marketing gimmick that's going to backfire monumentally. And it's unfortunate to see because someone who I think should be truly admired and Mike Tomlin will likely lose his job as a result.
Damn. Strong words.
I didn't think he'll lose his job, but okay.
Me neither.
All right.
Yeah, I think they'll.
All right.
I think they'll
I think he'll be
Sneak
there
in.
forever, like all the rest of Steeler coaches. But
I would love to say that, but I think that like people are thinking there are plenty of people who think Aaron Rodgers still has something in the tank, and he does not.
yeah, I
And
don't know.
so when
Yeah,
they go
yeah,
4-13 because
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers sucks,
Damn.
and people are going to put that on Tom. They're not going to put that. They're going to say, "Oh, he wasn't able to do it this year."
Damn. 4-13. Okay.
They'll win 8 at least.
All right.
Cool.
My hogwash is Kyle Pitts. So
Oh
Kyle
man.
Pitts, who's the tight end of the Atlanta Falcons, he's one of those guys everybody tells you is good, but not really all that good. And he doesn't want to play. The reason why he's my hogwash is because he doesn't want to play on the 5th-year option for $11 million. He wants an extension. Now, this is a guy who last year caught 47 passes in what? It was a 17-game season for 600 yards, only for 602 yards, only had 4 touchdowns all season. He's been in the league 4 years and he only has 10 touchdowns. And this is a guy who was billed as somebody need to get on your fantasy team, but really
I
hasn't
know
done
every
much.
year. Yep.
Every year they say it. And so the fact that he doesn't want to play on his 5th-year, $11 million option is crazy to me because he's not even worth $11 million. His production tells you he's worth a lot less. So he is hogwash. And if I was Atlanta, I would not extend him. I would definitely let him go and let him be somebody else's problem at the end of this season. But that's hogwash when I heard that. So he gets that
Yikes.
11 million, 4
Dang.
touchdowns, 47 catches. Then Kane get 50.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yep.
Mine is Justin Herbert. Next is our game ball. Who do you guys have for that? Who do you want to give your
Okay.
game ball to?
All right. Well, go ahead, B. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give it to Benedict Maturin, who had 27
he's
points to
baller.
lead the Pacers tonight.
Mm-hmm.
He was incredibly efficient. He only played 22 minutes, had 27 points, shot 75% from the field goal. And he was the X factor because you expect Halliburton, you expect Siakam, you expect these other players to be able to kind of deliver in a big moment, but he was a steadying force. They led the team in scoring, and looked like he could do this at any point in time. And he's had other outbursts where he had 2 games with 20 against the Knicks, and most of the other games are 4 and 5 and 3, and that kind of stuff. But very impressive, absolutely an X factor. He gets the game ball.
Nice.
My game ball goes to a guy who just retired, hasn't gotten a lot of press, but it's the center for the Detroit Lions, Frank Ragnow. He was a very, very good center, all pro center. By the way, he was in 2024, he was number 1 in run blocking. 2023, number 1 center in run blocking past 2 years. His overall grades rated number 2 center in the league last year. The year before, rated number 1. The fact that he's retiring due to injuries is crazy because he must really, really, really be injured for him to retire for all the money he's making. I think he's made about over $50 million or so. Probably living in Michigan, so that probably will go a long way. That probably helps him in retirement. But to replace a center, just a regular center on the team, is not a big drop off going from one center to another. But to replace an all pro center to the next guy is a huge drop off. And I don't think Detroit will be as good as people think they will be, being that they lost both their coordinators. But now, because their coach is not really a play caller, he's more like a CEO, and now they just lost their center, which is one of the more important positions, especially on offense or in a team in general. So I think that's going to hurt them this year. And he was just really, really good. I don't really give too many shouts out to offensive linemen, but
Sure.
I know good ones, and he was definitely a good one. So shout out to him. Best of luck to him in retirement. Too bad he had to retire due to injuries.
Yeah,
Frank
tough game.
Ragnow. Yep.
Yeah, tough game. Clarifying, Justin Herbert as a football player. I don't want that to happen to the man or his family. You feel me? This is just football related. Game ball. Hey man, I'm going with John Spytek, GM of the Raiders, man. I just like what he's doing. I like the picks. I like we just signed Pratt from the Bengals, another linebacker. Got Roberts, got Devin White. I like what they're doing, man, with him and Pete Carroll. So I'm just staying cautiously optimistic, but I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing. At the very least, they're giving me a heck of a team for Madden. So I appreciate that.
That's funny.
And then the final buzzer, if you will, for our show is the minute to win it, where you get a chance to just talk about whatever's on the mind. Just shout out to everybody for listening. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks guys for being down to do it, man. This has been a fun ride. We've been doing this show a long time.
Yeah, I'm just yeah, I'll say the same thing, which I'm like most people were all just waiting for football season. But yeah, I thank everybody for listening.
I'll start with don't believe the hype. So there's so much going on
Mm,
right now about
mm,
the protests in the Los Angeles area. I happen to work a few blocks from where those have been happening. This is something that's mostly contained in a few block radius. There is almost no violence or no bad actors. Most of these bad actors are coming out late. They're instigators. They're not part of the protests, which are actually very peaceful the vast majority of the time. And there's maybe 150 people in each of these little protests that are going on throughout the city, and the response has obviously been disproportionate with over 2,000 National Guards, Marines, and other officers around these very small areas. It made for a constant noise for me because I'm on the 50th floor, so I'm kind of eye line with the helicopters, and there's dozens of them at any point in time, or multitudes. I wouldn't say necessarily dozen, but lots of them. There's constant cop cars running, traversing the city because one of them walked on a freeway and stopped traffic. You know, this is this whole thing is hype because what has gotten lost in the conversation about using the Marines and the National Guard and the military and now curfews that we have imposed on the city is why they are protesting. And the reason they're protesting is because ICE is out of damn control. They are going to elementary school graduations, culminations. They're
Mm.
going to, Venice High School's graduation, where the head of the school had to lock all of the gates after people were in for the graduation to stop ICE from trying to do a raid during their high school graduation.
yeah.
They are, riding around the city and basically just racial profiling Latin people and pulling up on them and throwing them in cars. There was one where they took two cars and crashed into another car. It was a Mercedes with a family of four, happened to be Latin. Now they're wherever they happen to be. Civil rights activists who were there. Karen Bass, who is the mayor of the city, couldn't even get into a law enforcement facility to see someone who had been arrested, and she's the mayor. You got the president over here talking out of his rear ear about arresting the governor of the state, who did an amazing job in his response and statement last night. But be clear, folks. There's no violence. I work a couple blocks away. I walked across the street to get lunch today. I've driven home. My traffic has been just fine. There's no one instigating any problems. This is not about the protesters who are doing what they should be doing when something like this is going out of the problem. This is all about keeping people from looking at the problem, which is ICE, which is out of control, that have gone way too far, have way overreached, and are instigating violence. They've got a hit and run where they severely injured somebody. They're doing all type. They're shooting news reporters.
Yeah, I saw
It
that.
is
Yeah.
and they're just sitting there and it's like aim and fire. So don't forget that there's a really, really good reason why all these protests are happening in Los Angeles and now Chicago and Texas and New York and Seattle, and it's starting to spread because these ICE folks, are so far beyond control, and this is how authoritarianism starts. You find a way to get the military to come into these cities and take over, because when you don't use the governor for the National Guard and you're putting the Marines in U.S. cities, which is not what they're there for. They're here for. This is how authoritarian and a dictatorship starts.
Yeah, yeah, real talk.
Sports Counterpoints, June 11th, 2025. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.